The 7:45 a.m. train was always the same, crowded, noisy, and filled with the scent of coffee and perfume. Emily boarded with her usual tired sigh, clutching her travel mug like a lifeline. Another day at the office, another round of spreadsheets and deadlines. But lately, there was one thing about the commute that made it bearable. Him. She didn't know his name. She didn't know where he got off. All she knew was that every morning, he sat in the same seat by the window, row 3, left side, reading a book while the city blurred by outside. And every morning, Emily found herself drawn to him. It wasn't just that he was handsome, though he was, with dark hair that always seemed a little unruly and eyes that softened when he read. It was something else, a quiet presence, the way he seemed untouched by the rush around him, as if the chaos of the city couldn't reach him once he opened a book. At first, Emily only stole quick glances, a peek over the rim of her coffee cup, a glance as she adjusted her bag. But over weeks, those glances turned into something more. She noticed the way he smiled faintly at certain passages, the way he tapped his finger against the page when lost in thought. And sometimes, just sometimes, he caught her looking. Their eyes would meet, and for a heartbeat, the train noise fell away. Then she looked down quickly, cheeks burning, and he'd returned to his book with the ghost of a smile tugging at his lips. It became a ritual, a rhythm. Her mornings revolved around that brief exchange of glances with the stranger on the train. One morning, as the train jolted forward, Emily stumbled and nearly dropped her mug. A hand shot out, steady, firm, catching her elbow before she could fall. "Careful," he said, his voice calm, warm. Emily's heart leapt. It was the first word he had ever spoken to her. She managed a nervous smile. "Thanks. Guess I should hold on tighter." He nodded, releasing her arm, and for a moment their eyes lingered. She wanted to say something more, to introduce herself, to ask about the book in his hand. But the words caught in her throat, and before she could muster the courage, the train screeched to a halt. Her stop, Emily hesitated, tore between staying and leaving. But the door slid open, and the crowd carried her out. She glanced back just before the doors closed. He was still there, watching her go, the faintest smile on his lips. As she walked into the bustling city streets, Emily realized her mornings had changed forever, and she couldn't help but wonder, was it possible to fall for someone without ever knowing their name? The days blurred into weeks, and the weeks into months. Yet every morning, Emily found herself on the same train at the same time, searching for the same pair of eyes. And he was always there. Sometimes, he read novels with worn spines. Other days, he listened to music, tapping his fingers softly against his knee. Once, she even caught him sketching in a small notebook, lines flowing into shapes she couldn't quite see. Their eyes met more often now. No longer accidental, but deliberate. Small exchanges of recognition, like a secret only they shared. A smile here, a raised eyebrow there. A silent good morning that spoke louder than words. Emily began to plan her mornings around him. She woke earlier to ensure she caught the 7:45, skipped a later train, even if it would have been easier. There was something magnetic about the stranger, something that pulled her from the dull routine of her life and filled her with anticipation. Claire, her best friend, noticed a change. "You're glowing," she teased one evening as they sat in their favorite cafe. "What's his name?" Emily hesitated, cheeks flushing. "I don't know." Claire blinked. "You've been staring at this guy for months, and you don't even know his name?" "It's not like that," Emily protested. "We just look at each other, smile sometimes." Claire laughed. "Emily, that is like that. You're basically living in a romance novel. Just talk to him already." Emily stirred her coffee nervously. "What if I ruin it? What if the magic disappears the moment we actually speak?" Claire rolled her eyes. "Or what if the magic finally begins?" The next morning, Emily boarded the train with her heart racing. The stranger was there as always, reading with his head tilted slightly, lips curved in that faint half-smile. She sat across from him, hands gripping her bag tightly. For the first few stops, neither of them looked up, but when the train jerked suddenly, her pen rolled across the floor, stopping at his feet. He bent down, picked it up, and handed it to her. Their fingers brushed. "Thanks," she said softly. His eyes met hers, warm and curious. For a moment, it felt like the universe held its breath. Then he smiled. A real smile this time, bright enough to make her chest ache. Emily wanted to say something. Her name, at the very least. But the words tangled in her throat, stuck somewhere between fear and hope. Instead, she smiled back when her stop arrived. She stood hesitantly at the door. The stranger looked up, as if expecting her to say something, as if wanting her to. But once again, the moment slipped away, lost to the hiss of the train doors closing. As she walked to work, Emily scolded herself. She had to be braver. This silent connection couldn't last forever. Yet deep down, she wondered if silence was their language. Fragile, precious, and somehow more intimate than words. But fate, she would soon learn, doesn't wait for silence to turn into speech. It was a rainy Tuesday morning when everything changed. The train was delayed. Crowds pressed tighter than usual, umbrellas dripping water onto the floor. Emily squeezed inside, heart pounding, scanning for him. But his seat, row 3 left side, was empty. Her chest tightened. The minutes dragged. The train lurched forward, and still, he wasn't there. For the first time in months, Emily sat through her commute without stolen glances, without that quiet spark of connection. The absence was louder than the crowd, heavier than the rain. What if I never see him again? The thought struck her like lightning, raw and terrifying. She realized just how much of her mornings, her life, had revolved around a man whose name she didn't even know. The next day, he was still gone. And the next. By the third day, Emily was restless, her stomach twisted in knots. Had she lost her chance? Was this how silent stories ended? Unfinished, drifting away like strangers at a station? Then came Friday. The train pulled in, the doors opened, and there he was. His hair damp from the drizzle, book in hand, sliding into his usual seat as if nothing had changed. Emily's heart nearly burst. Relief flooded her, followed by determination. She couldn't let this chance slip away again. Taking a deep breath, she crossed the aisle and sat down beside him. He looked up surprised, but pleased. "Hi," she said, her voice trembling slightly. I see you here all the time. I'm Emily." For a heartbeat, he just stared. Then his lips curved into that warm, familiar smile. "Daniel," he said, "I was wondering how long it would take before we actually spoke." Her cheeks flushed. "You were?" He nodded, closing his book. "I didn't want to break the whatever this was, but I'm glad you did." The train rattled forward. But for once, Emily wasn't aware of the noise, the crowd, the city rushing by. All she could hear was the sound of his voice, the way her name sounded when he said it. They talked, really talked, for the first time, about books, about music, about favorite stops along the line. Every word felt natural, like catching up with someone she'd always known. When the train neared her stop, Emily stood reluctantly. This time, she didn't wait for the moment to slip away. "Coffee?" she asked, heart racing. "After work?" Daniel's smile widened. "I'd like that." The doors opened and Emily stepped out. But before they closed, she glanced back, just as she always had. Only now, it wasn't a passing glance between strangers. It was a promise.